related, drug manufacturers around the globe are frequently the target of cyber attacks. These attacks are perpetrated for a wide range of reasons by competitors, adversarial nations, even non-state actors, and can cause disruptions in the supply chain that impact the availability of key drugs and their components. Which link of the supply chain is most vulnerable to cyber attacks, and in what ways does cyber resilience protect domestic drug production? What types of measures does your company take to promote cybersecurity? Approximately how much does this cost out of your operating budget? And for Mr. Cockle directly, how can new and existing domestic drug manufacturers engage with CISA, the FBI, DHS, and other federal authorities for robust cybersecurity protections? You can start, Mr. Cockle.
Thank you, Senator. I think it's an important risk to flag. We often think about what if a country were to cut off our supply, but you can shut down a pharmaceutical plant the way you can shut down any business with a cyber attack or a cyber ransom attack. And if you Google India cyber ransom attack pharma, you'll find a long list of companies there that have been targeted, which is not to say that we're not also at risk in the U.S. Of course, those sorts of attacks know no borders, but it's reasonable to think that a company that's cutting corners on its manufacturing quality is probably not also investing in cybersecurity the way it should. So there are a number of federal programs to support U.S. manufacturers, but there's no doubt to ensure our supply, we need to be ensuring that our domestic manufacturers and our manufacturing partners have top-notch cybersecurity.
Anyone else want to add to that?
Yes, thank you. Ranking Member Gillibrand, this is a critical aspect of the pharmaceutical supply chain and resiliency across them, and I think every single node of the supply chain is at risk, not one more than another. In combination and in partnership with the Administration for Strategic Preparedness and Response, FLO's government program incorporated cybersecurity into the infrastructure build from day one. We have partnered with the FBI, Homeland Security, and CISA in order to test our systems and to come on top of this infrastructure build because we know that fragility and that vulnerability is real. In 2017, for example, Merck experienced a ransomware attack that ended up having an impact of over $1 billion in potential damages. So this is not something that's theoretical. It's happened in the past. And in the age of where we are today and the vulnerabilities that we are experiencing from a geopolitical conflict potential, this is only going to become even more of a threat. So for us, it's about not building an infrastructure and then trying to decide on, let's layer cybersecurity on top of it. It's about integrating that cybersecurity posture from day one and ensuring that anyone who works alongside the government supply chain to secure our critical industrial base is making sure that we're prepared for the future as a matter of national public health security.
I do think that the new regulation around DSCSA and serialization has improved so that we track every batch, every case, every bottle, down to the consumer level. So if there is ever a recall, we can identify where it is.
Helpful. Also related, Mr. Neely, you talked about that there needed to be some support. You weren't specific about what the support was, but I want to challenge some of the witnesses about what supports would actually matter. Dr. Edwards, you mentioned your groundbreaking partnership with the Administration for Strategic Preparedness and Response, known as ASPR, in your testimony. Dr. Cockle, Mr. Cockle, you mentioned in your testimony that your facility in Petersburg, Virginia, is funded with U.S. government support with ASPR through the Center of Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority, known as BARDA. So can you both, Dr. Edwards and Mr. Cockle, speak about your experiences, what's working, what's not working, and Mr. Neely and Mr. Cashman, if you want to add what types of support you'd want, because it's relevant for us, because we are definitely going to do the transparency stuff. That's like very much common ground, something the chairman and I want to work on immediately. But more is needed, and we need more color on the more. Go ahead, Dr. Edwards.
Thank you for that question, Ranking Member Gillibrand. You know, ASPR has undertaken a critical mission since we first got started with them over 5 years ago, through now multiple administrations and a pandemic, and on the other side of that pandemic, to try to address pharmaceutical supply chain sovereignty. However, they need help. The GAO has repeatedly recommended that HHS implements a formal department-wide mechanism to coordinate drug shortage activities. This would ensure that FDA, CMS, DoD, DoW, and ASPR, and other agencies work together rather than in silos, which is really what is happening today. There need to be clearly defined roles, goals, and outcomes among the agencies. And finally, ASPR and any other agency that is tasked with this extremely important mission should ensure that they receive long-term sustainable funding as well to support companies like ourselves, but also others who are working to bring back this industrial base, as this is not something that Flow can do alone. You need multiple flows. You need multiple companies working together and really helping them raise up their posture and have the support they need. Going back to that centralized authority would be a critical step in the right direction, specifically.
Thank you, Senator. The funding that we received from ASPR to invest in our plant was very important, taking into account the capital costs and the startup costs. Nearly a third of that funding came from ASPR. That was during the pandemic when there were resources to make those kinds of investments. In recent years, the Office of Industrial Base Management and Supply Chain within ASPR, which is the office that has the expertise and the mandate to make these sort of targeted investments, has had very low, very flat budget and hasn't had the ability to make additional investments. So they can do more, but we have to support them to do more.
And Ranking Member, mine's pretty simple. I would think that this committee would want a plant that's just fairly new to be at full capacity. To be at full capacity, an $18 million grant to build out 3 packaging lines and another granulating piece of equipment could quadruple the throughput through our operation.
Yeah, I would second that, Ranking Member. I would also add that we need a very comprehensive approach. Strategic antibiotic manufacturing fund with targeted grants and low-interest loans would be very, very helpful, similar to the CHIPS Act. Second, tax incentives for domestic API production, including immediate expensing of new equipment and enhanced R&D deductions. Third, supply chain visibility, which you mentioned, which I think is so important for patients and doctors and hospitals to know where their medications come from. Fourth, recognition that essential medicines are national security assets, making manufacturers eligible for industrial-based support available to other critical sectors. You know, there's a lot of different tools we could employ here, but we need a sustained commitment. I think that's a message we hear from every one of us up here. And it has to be a long-term sustained commitment. Thank you.